Time travel has been a concept that's intrigued me. Sure enough, it's also captured the hearts of anime fans of all ages, whichever genre they like. It's not quite as widespread. However, upon looking back at some of the key shows that I've seen as well as going through some footnotes in anime's long history, it's quite nice to see that the concept of going back in time has played a role in giving us some of the most popular and memorable titles that we've all enjoyed. And that's what we're going to do today. Go through 20 of the time travel anime series or movies that I found myself loving the most. The first anime on the list is Buddy Complex. Mecha and time travel seem to be a natural combination, given how much the latter lends itself to a sci-fi setting. Yet, it feels quite rare, possibly owing to mecha's place as a pretty niche genre as the 2010s came around. 2014's Buddy Complex made the premise work, and it remains one of Sunrise's more interesting works around that time. Buddy Complex feels like a Gundam show at first glance, which isn't surprising considering Sunrise's role in it. The main difference, however, comes in the form of the protagonist's big decision coming in the form of involving himself in a battle in the future. All of that is a bid to prevent his gruesome end in the present and to figure out the secret behind his classmate who came from the future, the mysterious Hina Yumihara. Buddy Complex aims to give its fans the best of both worlds, and while not as lauded or popular as Sunrise's biggest hits, it deserves a bit of your attention.
Hina! Hina!
Next up we have Future Diary.
大丈夫。ユッキーがユノが守ってあげる。
When we mention Future Diary, it seems that its time travel aspects get undermined, especially from people who haven't watched it and only heard of it. After all, it's not primarily known for the time travel, but more for the violent fights in Yandere poster child Yuno Gasai. That's not a knock on it though, as the battles here can be quite intense and attention-catching, especially since the position of being the god of space and time is at stake. Future Diary is one of the edgy fan favourites back in the 2010s, and it remains wild, entertaining, and downright brutal. It's one of the most well-known titles with the Battle Royale premise, and I do think that none of the similar shows that came after it had quite the legacy it had. Sure, a lot of fans and I enjoyed things like Darwin's Game or Gleipnir, but they don't quite hit the same high in terms of cultural impact.
ねえ起きて。起きてってば。
Sakurada Reset is the next title on the list. Much like a title that we'll be featuring way further on this list, Sakurada Reset has a cover and an overall appearance that makes people think of it as a slice of life show. With a premise that features a guy with a photographic memory and a stoic girl who can reset time, the ground seems to be set for a drama with a dash of action. Adding to this is the presence of a bureau that keeps tabs on people with powers and assigns the duo on missions. I like Sakurada Reset, I really do, but I still got to admit that it's quite a tough sell to general audiences due to its slow burn approach. If you didn't think that it's a slice of life thanks to the cover, it may give off vibes similar to an action-packed modern fantasy featuring people with powers. However, there isn't much action, and everything basically builds up to a narrative that has a nice philosophical touch. Still, you should give it a try if you're someone who likes these kinds of shows. Overall, I do find it very compelling. It's just that it ultimately remains something for its specific niche. Ready to dive into more niche shows? Here's Zebang, fresh from 2004.
昔日本人はこんな南の島でも戦争をしていたんだ。
At times, I got myself into thinking what the most realistic time travel show could be. The premise itself lends to fantasy already, but I'm talking about what a careful person would reasonably do after the time travel. That's where Zebang comes in, which revolves around the crew of an advanced warship finding themselves in World War II. With their advanced weaponry, they know they can easily turn the tide of the war in favour of Japan. But this isn't that kind of show, and perhaps letting history take its course ends up being better. Still, staying anonymous and not touching history when you're dead centre of it could turn out to be a task easier said than done. Zebang's probably the most obscure show that will feature on this list, but it does have a unique aspect to it. Instead of people going ham with the time travel and altering the past, how about going in the other direction? Surely it's not exactly the more compelling course of action between the two on paper, but Zebang manages to hold my attention with its cliffhangers, something to take note of definitely.
勉強になるな。
Before we continue, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt that feeling you just can't get the right content to watch while you're scrolling through TikTok and YouTube Shorts? Well, let me introduce you to one of the best platforms for niches like anime and gaming, and the sponsors of this video, FreshCut. FreshCut was built for both creators and their fans, where you can watch content that you actually like. Best of all, it was actually built by a team that used to work with Twitch and has 20 plus years of combined experience. Through FreshCut, you don't have to keep scrolling until the algorithm recognizes that you actually want to watch anime clips rather than Minecraft parkour speedruns. When you open FreshCut, you get to choose which community you want to focus on, and all the content FreshCut gives you is from that community alone. They have new features like diamond tipping that you can send to help your favorite creators, as well as in-app quests that have a daily streak system to make watching videos even more interactive. Best of all, just like an RPG game, there's a shop that you can use your earned diamonds to buy gift cards, riot points, merch, and loads more. So, what are you waiting for? Take a look at FreshCut now. Thank you, FreshCut, and back to the video. Let's fast forward to the modern era with Remake Our Life. Remake Our Life throws our protagonist in a scenario that we've likely come across in our own lives. It just feels awful when you get past the point of no return and invested your efforts in learning something that just doesn't pay off. Luckily, Kyoka, who's at the dead end of his career and aspirations, gets a second chance. Finding himself 10 years in the past, he decides to attend an art school instead of pursuing a course in a business university. This puts him in a team with the successful female creators that were the objects of his envy in his previous life. If you're looking for something that delves with the entertainment and game industry in your time travel show, then you've come to the right place with this one. I've long considered Seikano as one of my favourite rom-coms, and this show scratches the same itch, giving audiences a cast of charming characters along with some fan-servicey harem hijinks. There's a lot of fun to be had with the cast of Remake Our Life, and it's easy to tell what kind of show it's going to turn out to be from the get-go. Try it if you're into that sort of thing.
仕方なくなんかない。絶対なんとかする。
Following that, we go to the Sengoku era for Ambition of Oda Nobunaga. A personal favourite of mine. Ambition of Oda Nobunaga sends our protagonist Yoshiharu back in time to the Warring States period, only for him to find out that the warlords from his knowledge of history are girls. He also finds himself a member of the Oda clan as a replacement for Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who gave his life up to save him. With the irregularity in history and his new role, Yoshiharu looks to set things straight and guide Nobunaga, this world's female counterpart to the famous Oda Nobunaga, in her quest to conquer all of Japan. Surely his knowledge will come in handy not only in military expeditions, but in also steering Nobunaga away from the violent fate that was in store for the actual Nobunaga. It's very, very easy to pass this off as your typical harem rom-com with historical and military elements, but honestly, that's one of the things that initially drew me to it. However, upon rewatching it, I found myself quickly engrossed in not just the budding relationships between the characters, but also how it incorporated actual history in its narrative. There are lots of genuinely hype and touching moments for this show, and that may have been passed off as a seasonal filler back in 2012. It's a really enjoyable watch, so much that the lack of a sequel is something that I still feel bad about. Let's feature the first movie on the list, Her Blue Sky.
Huh? 誰?
I gotta admit, this movie here is a fringe case of time travel, if it's even that. Still, I grabbed the chance to feature this film that I felt needs a little bit more love, being a winding journey that has no shortage of drama and plot twists. Meeting your past self opens up a lot of possibilities, and Her Blue Sky runs with that concept and asks us questions about it. The story sounds really promising and original, but if there's something I have to give praise to, it's more of the movie's production. Art, as expected from a theatrical production, is exceptionally nice. Also, it's from the team behind Anohana, so you see some familiar elements if you watch the former. It's not exactly a masterpiece, but it's still a good watch if you're up for watching an anime movie. I still believe this could have worked better as a full-blown series, but it's a pretty nice film for what it is. The world in colours deserves a mention too. Losing your childhood as you reach the older stages is one of the things that hurts the most. In this anime's case, it hurt Hitomi so much that she started hating magic and stopped seeing the world in colours. To throw her a bone, her grandmother casts a spell and sends her into the past, where she finds herself in the artist Yuito's room. Will this person be the key for Hitomi to once again see a world filled with colour? One look and the knowledge that this is a PA Works anime are all you need to get a gist of what to expect from Irozuku. I really got what I came for, with this show excelling in sending the audience through a creative and magical magical adventure. As with most of the studio's shows, Irozuku is a wonderful story of character growth full of ups and downs, set against a colourful backdrop that looks as beautiful as advertised. The show's a nice recommendation for anyone looking for an original anime that's a treat to the heart as much as a treat to the eyes. The trip to the Sengoku's not quite done yet with our next title, Nobunaga Concerto. If I had to pick a title on the list that's all about looking and feeling unique, Nobunaga Concerto would be at the top of said candidates. That's the thing that stands out to me with Nobunaga Concerto, how it looks. It's a pretty short anime, clocking in at just 10 episodes, but those 10 episodes are filled with quality, mainly detailing Saburo's mishap of getting sent back in time and finding himself as a stand-in for the legendary Oda Nobunaga. Unlike the previous entry that has to do with the premise, ambition of Oda Nobunaga Concerto concerns itself more with a grounded take on history. If you think Nobunaga's gender-bending, action-packed and fan-servicey take on the Sengoku era isn't quite your cup of tea, you can probably sink your teeth into this title. The art does take a while to get used to, but I found myself adjusting quite well just a few episodes in. Orange is our next title, and it does time travel in a unique way.
10年後の未来なんで知ってんの
A simple title for a show that cuts deep into the heartstrings. Orange is a school drama detailing Takamiya and her efforts to change the future. Guided by a letter from herself 10 years into the future, she tries her best to correct her mistakes while trying to save a person of particular interest, the transfer student Gakeru. As expected from an adaptation of a shoujo manga, Orange is a show that's character-driven and rife with emotional story beats. I also give it props in the unique take on the time travel aspect, where instead of the main character travelling through time, the plot revolves around the present, with the time travel aspect mostly confined to the letters. It can get quite melodramatic at times, but I don't think it's to the detriment of this story about friendship and grabbing hold of chances life gives you.
今度は必ずかけるを救うから
And if you're enjoying the video and want more content like this, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe while you're at it. Alright, it's time to start meeting the second half of my top 20 list. Next we have the girl who leapt through time. The last year of high school is such a crucial part of our lives. As we prepare to take the leap to the next phase of our life, it feels so make or break. It would be sweet to have the power to travel back in time and do everything right, just to make sure we don't mess up at such a crucial juncture, right? We just need to be careful in messing with the past though, as every choice leads to a consequence. And that's the overall message that this award-winning movie gives us. It's an Aesop that we've heard of before, but that doesn't change the fact that the movie presents those lessons in an excellent and enjoyable manner. The movie isn't too long either, being just around about an hour and a half, but it ties everything in a conclusion that's all about hope and the brightness of looking forward to the future. A great watch for the family that I strongly recommend. A treat for those who are around in the 2000s, here's Inuyasha. Time travel and an aspect of isekai before it's cool, here's Inuyasha for you. Lots of people back in my elementary and high school days just can't get enough of Kagome's story of finding herself in feudal Japan, as well as her quest with Inuyasha and the rest of the team in regaining the pieces of a shattered jewel. It regularly finds itself along its long-running shonen contemporaries, and it remains one of Rumiko Takahashi's most renowned works. Inuyasha is insanely long for modern anime standards, but it remains an enjoyable ride if you found yourself invested in the characters early enough. They may not be the most unique ones of the bunch, but they do have some great dynamics that make watching them greater than the sum of their parts. With it being character oriented instead of battle or twist centric, Inuyasha overall gives a slightly different flavour to the popular battle heavy shonen of its era, and I think that's a pretty cool thing to take note of. Tatami Galaxy is a show I've been eager to talk about. Since I talked about Nobunaga Concerto, why not also feature Tatami Galaxy? Like the former, Tatami Galaxy is a show that you'd probably take note of due to its art style, one that allows it to stick out from most anime that we're used to seeing. Like some titles we've seen, Tatami Galaxy revolves around a person full of regrets about his college life. Of course, he gets the chance to go back in time and right his wrongs, a way to set his life on the right path. Tatami Galaxy is notable for its rather surrealist art style as it explores the endless possibilities a life can have. We get to see the drastic effect of simple decisions through this series of short stories that oftentimes gives us some lessons to remember. Rewatch bonus is also a thing for this anime, allowing repeat watchers to pick up on things that make sense the second time around. It's something you could try if you want something that looks a little bit different yet remains relatable. Erased finds its way next on the list. What a time 2016 was in the world of anime. Sometime in the middle of the year, an anime took the community by storm and it was Erased. Erased runs on the simple premise of the protagonist going back in time to fix the present while having zero control of the powerful ability. Back in his schooling days, he gets the chance to investigate a murder mystery, one that apparently boiled over to the bad present he used to have. He's got a lot of work to do, and it all starts with understanding more about his classmates. If there's a thing I'll praise Erased for, it's how well it does cliffhangers. I constantly found myself watching episode after episode because the show has such great mysteries that you keep wanting more. The more answers get revealed, the more questions follow, and you find yourself totally immersed in the scenarios presented by the story.
俺は
未来を変えたい
Next, we have Tokyo Revengers providing much welcome hot-blooded elements to the list.
嘘
If you want a time travel anime but can't let go of hot-blooded battles that are as flashy and exciting as the other mainstream shonen hits, you've come to the right place. Tokyo Revengers has been making a name for itself in the anime community for quite some time now, thanks to its cast of characters, most which exude a strong presence, and the numerous flashy fights it's got lined up. It's not too often you see a time travel plot go this all in on the action, and it's paid off spectacularly on the part of Tokyo Revengers. Despite all the good that can be said with Tokyo Revengers, I have to admit that the show strongly resonates with a certain type of anime fan, those who love their gritty action sequences and cool characters. There's some room for character growth, and while the main characters had quite the polarized reception, the other members of the cast contribute in giving the show an overall cool vibe.
決めたよヒナ俺が東卍のトップになる
Opening my top 5 is Vivi.
ディバ未来よ人類よ頼んだぞ
When it aired, Vivi didn't exactly enter to much fanfare. Sure, it's got ReZero Guy's name attached to it and it deals with a time travel premise, but that's basically it. However, a few episodes in and it becomes clear that it was to be one of the best shows of its season. Vivi's strength, in my opinion, is in its themes and compactness. It's paced really well, making sure that there's always something to keep people coming back week after week, and the fights aren't bad either. It's got some insanely fast-paced fights that help showcase the anime team's skill in more ways than one. Vivi just ends up being a very beautiful anime in a literal sense. Great visuals, great music, and some philosophical subtext. Yeah, the latter feels like something we've seen out of a lot of sci-fis that deal with robots or AI, but in Vivi, such themes were presented masterfully.
歌でみんなを幸せにすることだ。そのために心を込めて歌うんだよ。
At number 4, we take a look at Link Click.
第一，你只有12个小时；第二，要完全听从我的指挥。
Link Click gives us an interesting premise in that it's something that I haven't exactly thought of before coming across this anime. For our two main characters to travel through time, they use photographs. Quite a genuine premise, I'd say, and it's something that really teases my imagination. What if we had something like that in real life? And as a staple for the great shows in this genre, Link Click is just awesome at creating mysteries and cliffhangers. In between the pretty visuals and the fights, Link Click is an underrated show that fans of the genre should check out. While its fights are still a notch below those from Vivi, it's got a magic touch that makes you just want to binge everything in one go.
出发。
What better show to start off our top 3 than Re:Zero?
疲れるわな。
For those who've been around for the past few years, you'd have surely heard of this show. At its very basic state, it's got a very intriguing plot featuring puzzles that keep the viewer engaged and waiting for the eventual solution. It's the quintessential thriller that just won't let you go as more mysteries unravel, all while supported by a lot of what seems to be popular with anime watchers in its time, namely the isekai aspect and the abundance of waifu characters that eventually get their time to shine. It's no surprise that Re:Zero became such a smash hit. Subaru himself remains quite the divisive character, but as we've seen with Tokyo Revengers, that's barely a burden when so much of the show is good. The second season has come and gone, and I feel that it allowed the franchise to show off how it can excel in multiple aspects. While the first one had better action and a faster paced plot, the second one really shone in the character development side.
スバル私の膝枕好きでしょスバル眠たいの
And if you can't get enough of Re:Zero, here's Summertime Render. Just like Re:Zero, Summertime Render runs with the premise of having a protagonist being able to go back in time after each death. However, it turns up the stakes and intensity of such situation up to 11. Doing away with the isekai and veering into straight up modern supernatural territory, Summertime Render provides a different flavour to Re:Zero's concept, but it's just as good. I really love the show for how well it does its overall mystery and just how violent and tense some moments can get. It's also a compact story that wraps up extremely nicely in the 2 cores it got as an anime. Summertime Render is definitely a must-watch in my opinion. The manga got me binging, and the anime improved on the experience tenfold. It really feels like an extremely refined take on what Re:Zero's doing, and I gotta love how much more suspenseful and high stakes it felt.
俺なんだこれ
And at the top of the mountain is the king of time travel anime itself, Steins Gate. There's just so much that can be said about Steins Gate. In its time in the twilight of the heyday of visual novel and game adaptations, it rose above the rest and became quite possibly a contender for best anime of the 2010s, period. It's got everything you'd want from an anime like this. Likeable characters, clever time travel mechanics, and great production values. The voice acting is something that people have given much praise over, but I still think that the plot and story progression is something else. Given how much I praise the anime, I have to say that it's still not a perfect show by any means. But what show is? It's got its flaws, but it's still one of the best sci-fi anime ever made in the past decade or so, and it's something that stood the test of time beautifully. Whatever kind of anime fan you are, you should definitely give this one a shot, even if you're not a fan of sci-fi.
なんだ
That does it for my top 10. My conclusion is that the anime world has shown the potential of time travel story ideas by mixing it with all sorts of setups and genres. Now, there are some titles that you might find conspicuously missing, but I decided against them due to the time travel aspect being big spoilers. Can you guess at least 2 of them? You don't have to leave it in the comments, but it's a nice thought exercise and we can compare lists if you want. And don't forget to check out Fresh Cut, links in the description. It's been a pleasure to share my favourite time travel anime with you, and I hope to see you for the next video that's coming real soon. So make sure to subscribe and keep up to date with ViniTube. See ya!